Tennis has never been this dominant, but every so often, a player hits a level so high that you can only sit there and go, what the f is this? Matches where top pros look like they've been hired for a clinic, dominance that kicks your empathy into overdrive, upsets where an underdog looked possessed, and scorelines so brutal that the opponent starts considering retirement. These are the most unplayable one-match performances of the modern era. Let's start on the biggest stage of all, because Grand Slam finals are where we're promised a showdown. And every now and then, we witness a demolition. If demolitions have a gold standard, this is it. This match was the moment you realise Rafael Nadal on clay might be the highest level a human has ever reached in tennis. Rafa hit 46 winners and made only 7 unforced errors, nearly a 40 winner-to-error disparity. In a Grand Slam final, Federer made 35 unforced errors, was broken 8 times, and won only 34% of his service points. Federer's career average is around 62% service points won. Nadal held him to basically half of that. Then you add the total points and it somehow gets worse. 92 won by Nadal, only 52 for Federer. And the scoreline looked exactly how it felt. 6-1, 6-3, 6-love over Federer. Fresh off the most dominant 3-year run we've ever seen. This wasn't just a win, it was a message. And the scary part is, Nadal didn't stop. He kept doing this for over a decade, which is what made the 2020 final even more ridiculous. Because this time, the victim wasn't Federer, it was Djokovic. Djokovic isn't familiar with being dominated. He's usually the person on the other end making your life a living hell. But in 2020, Djokovic made 52 unforced errors, Nadal made 14. That is a 38 error gap in a slam final. And after a brutal 6-love opener, Djokovic looked like a man counting the minutes till the handshake. This is the match where you realise Nadal on Chartier isn't just hard to beat. He's the final boss of the sport. Now here's the fun part. Because if Nadal can do that to Djokovic in Paris, Djokovic can do the reverse when he hosts Nadal. And the 2019 Australian Open final is exactly that. This was Djokovic at his most suffocating. Through 3 sets, he hit 34 winners and just 9 unforced errors. And he only allowed Nadal 1 break point for the entire match, which he saved. That one stat alone is pivotal, because it meant Nadal spent 2 hours thinking, I'm not even close. And we've all been there. But at that level, on that stage, the brutality is different. It was clean, airless, suffocating. But if that's Djokovic hosting Nadal for a quick afternoon roast in Rod Laver, we need to rewind to see him finally do what so few players ever do in their careers: outplay Nadal at Roland Garros. The matchup in 2015 was a quarterfinal, but spiritually, it was a final. This is Nadal in Paris, the clay god, I may as well book my flights out of here matchup. And Djokovic produced a stat line that still reads like fiction. He won 102 of 173 points. He hit 45 clean winners to Nadal's 13. That's not just beating Nadal, that's taking something away from him. That match was Djokovic finally getting revenge on behalf of every player Nadal has taken for a ride in Paris for over a decade. And for all the wars these two gave us, they also gave us an equal amount of one-sided shocks. Which brings us to bucket 2. Because if these matches overpromised and under-delivered on the showdown, the next list is where the opponent doesn't even get the luxury of hope. This is a humiliation ritual, and the modern gold standard for it is Rome 2025. Casper Ruud is a legit top pro, multiple slam finalist, and he is elite on clay, and Jannik made him look like he's participating at his own training clinic. The scoreline was 6-love, 6-1, and Ruud legitimately celebrated when he won his first and only game. What makes it crazier is the stat that tells the whole story. Sinner won 68% of return points. If you're winning 68% of return points, you're not playing tennis, you're teaching the other guy. And if there's a player you want teaching a clinic, it's Federer. Because the next match is the same scoreline, same humiliation, just a different era. Federer vs Murray at the 2014 ATP Finals. 6-love, 6-1. And Federer won the match in just 56 minutes. At a tournament that includes only the best of the best against Andy Murray, one of the greatest competitors ever. This isn't supposed to be possible at that stage of the season against that caliber of opponent. This is Federer in that mode where the ball looks as big as a soccer ball. Every serve hits the right spot, every forehand devastates, and Murray is just out there looking for relief. But the next one is even more special, because it came with the most perfect post-match quote in tennis. The Doha final in 2016 between Djokovic and Nadal was a massacre. Nadal basically said he'd never seen someone play at that level, effectively the highest level he has ever seen. And Djokovic backed it with the nastiest winners gap. Djokovic finished with 30 winners, Nadal finished with just 9. In a 6-1, 6-2 match where Djokovic never relinquished control. But every now and then, players don't reach a new level because they're comfortable. They reach a new level because they have to. Which brings us to Tokyo 2025. Alcaraz was dealing with an injury after rolling his ankle early in the tournament before running into Nakashima. And you'd think the injury would slow him down. But when great players have their backs against the wall, their game doesn't shrink. It sharpens. It was a 6-2, 6-4 big hitting spectacle where Alcaraz hit 39 winners in 80 minutes. With compromised movement, he started taking bigger swings. And just when you think Alcaraz's power is already overwhelming, he somehow found another gear. But Alcaraz playing out of his mind isn't exactly shocking. He's a freak. He's got expectations. But sometimes the person playing out of their mind isn't the favourite. Sometimes it's the underdog. And that's when tennis gets most interesting. This list is not about expected greatness. It's about someone turning up and temporarily looking like the GOAT. And we start with the upset that still doesn't feel real. Soderling defeating Nadal in 2019 is the impossible that actually happened. Nadal came into the match unbeaten at Roland Garros, and not Federer, not Djokovic. Soderling ends the streak. But what makes it perfect is how it happened. He didn't outgrind Nadal, he outplayed him. He took the ball early, stepped inside the baseline, and forced Nadal to play defense again and again. This is what a true played out of his mind upset looks like. And if that's the clay version, Wimbledon is where the story gets even spicier. Rosol vs Nadal at Wimbledon 2012 was a terrifying upset because Nadal didn't even play badly. Nadal made only 16 unforced errors across the entire match, but Rosol lost only 16 points on first serve in 5 sets. So it's not Nadal collapsing, it's Rosol deciding to completely take his opponent out of the match. No matter what happened, Rosol was going to win or lose on his terms, not Nadal's. And yes, Nadal can be prone to that on grass. But one man who is not accustomed to being pushed around is Roger Federer, which is why the next upset still feels like a fever dream. At the 2014 US Open semi-final, Federer ran into a player who decided he wasn't just happy to be there. Cilic was there to make a stand, and you could literally see it in Federer's body language. He ran into something he couldn't slow down. Cilic came in with huge serves, first strike pressure, and a relentless pace. There was simply no stopping Cilic. So we've seen finals turned into massacres, elite demolitions, and underdogs playing out of their minds. So we finished where the ceiling actually gets tested. These matches aren't about one guy making the other look small. It's an example of what happens when both guys bring their A game, and the match becomes cemented in history. Nadal and Federer at Wimbledon 2008 is touted as one of the best matches in the Open era. And the numbers are wild because they show how close it really was, and how different their styles were. The match lasted 4 hours and 48 minutes. Federer hit 25 aces to Nadal's 6. Federer hit a whopping 89 winners to Nadal's 60. But Federer had 52 unforced errors to Nadal's 27. They both had 13 break points, Nadal took 4 and Federer only took 1. And the total points for the match was neck and neck, Nadal just edging Federer 209 to 204. Federer won in the aggression categories, but Nadal somehow won the match. In a place where Federer looked untouchable, and a surface that looked detrimental to Nadal's game, he pulled off the unthinkable. But in 2012, he wasn't as fortunate. At the Australian Open, we witnessed the longest slam final ever, 5 hours and 53 minutes. This is where tennis stopped being a sport and became war. Djokovic finished with 57 winners and 69 unforced errors. Nadal had 44 winners and 71 unforced errors. It's not perfect, it's too long to be perfect. But the errors lived in the refusal to miss, the rallies that never ended, and the fact that both guys were still digging deep at the 5-hour mark. And if AO 2012 is the ultimate war, Wimbledon 2019 is the ultimate what if. 4 hours and 57 minutes, the longest Wimbledon final ever. And the story is one of devastating proportions. Federer has 2 championship points at 8-7, 40-15 in the 5th. Djokovic saved them, rallied back, and stole victory from the jaws of defeat. Now we need to jump to the modern era. because Alcaraz Djokovic Wimbledon final in 2023 was the iconic passing of the torch match. And there's one stat that tells you everything about the intensity. There was one single game that lasted 26 minutes and contained 13 deuces, which included 7 break points. It was a nail-biter to the end, and a match that basically defined how clutch Alcaraz has been in his career. But we got to see a glimpse of this a few years earlier at the 2022 US Open. Sinner and Alcaraz played a match that ended at basically 3 in the morning. It ran 5 hours and 15 minutes, and the quality is what makes it legendary. The shot making didn't dip like it should, the courage didn't disappear, both guys kept swinging like it was the first set. One of the highest levels we've seen in a match in recent years. But we've got to close with the most perfect match of their young careers, because it combines everything. Ups and downs, madness, endurance, and margin so thin it's a shame there couldn't be 2 winners. The Alcaraz-Sinner 2025 Roland Garros final was the longest French Open final in history. It lasted 5 hours and 29 minutes, and the most insane part, the total points are essentially dead even across the whole match, a 1-point margin over 5.5 hours. That's what the highest level actually is. Not just excellence, but excellence sustained, while the other guy is also at his best. And someone still has to blink first. With so many matches to choose from, there's no way to include all of them. So drop the match that made you feel like you were watching a different sport, where someone brought a level so high, it set a new standard. And if you're new here, subscribe.